Israel had generals, captains, lieutenants, and, and the way it was set up in the courtyards and the tents and everything, and the Levites were carrying out their business, the people that carried the Ark of the Covenant, they was really powerful men who were securing that.
It's a message from my heavenly
Very
Father,
powerful
letting
men,
us know
because
who
they
we
couldn't
are.
let no one near, because
Born
first
in
of all,
this
you would
image,
die.
gave the crown of
If you
dominion and
touch
authority, and
they
the
want to
raised out to
change.
the serpent.
Jesus
Thus
didn't
they
have
told the
Buddha
light
didn't
when he
have
ate the
it,
tree
Jesus
the
didn't have
meaning
it.
of
Allah
naked. The ground was cursed and sacred, trying to eat us all over the ground.
So
Thorns
Yahweh
and
can
fists
help
was
me.
waiting.
He
I can fast forward some monetary recognized
helped me change my whole thing.
Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome to the Yahweh and Yahshua Speak television show. We are broadcasting from Yahweh and Yahshua's temple at 725.5 Howard Street in Evanston, Illinois. We're glad that you have tuned in, and we are on part 2 of Have Ye Not Read the Scripture? Have ye not read the Scripture? Let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. So at our first temple, I told you on the first show, on every weekly Shabbat, we sang a song which included the words, be reading, be reading, be reading when he comes. Be reading, be reading, be reading when he comes, because he's coming again so soon. So we looked at the first show where Yahshua was asking the question, have you not read the Bible? Have you not read about this that's in the Bible, or have you not read about that that's in the Bible? And Yahweh showed us in the first show that it is incumbent upon us to read the Bible, which is the book of books,
Yes.
before we leave this earth,
Hallelujah.
because Yahweh is going to show us that man has a problem.
Yes, we do.
And the Ruach used the expression, the handwriting is on the wall for man.
Yes, it is.
In other words, there is something that man has been judged guilty of, and he has got to get out from under that guilt before he leaves the earth. So we're in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, and let's read verse 12, please.
And further, by these, my son, be admonished, of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh.
So we went to the scripture on the first show because we were talking about all the books that come out and books that people are reading, and they're reading fiction, non-fiction, they're reading mysteries, they're reading romance novels. And Yahweh tells us here, further by these, my bond and my bath, my son and daughters, be admonished of making many books. There's no end. They're always coming out with another book on this subject or that subject. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. That is, if you're not studying the book that Yahweh left here for you to study. And that book supersedes all books.
All books, yes it does.
As a matter of fact, life on earth is about reading the book of books and doing what it says.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Let's go to 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. So if you don't read this book before you leave here, you are in big trouble.
Yes.
1 Timothy, the 4th chapter, because you won't know that the handwriting is on the wall for you as a human being.
Okay.
You've been judged guilty.
Yes, we have.
You
From
have
birth.
to get out from under that guilt,
Hallelujah. It's the
or
only
else
way.
you're headed for the lake of fire.
That's it. Y'all right, Rod. Tell it like it is. So
1
they answer
Timothy
no.
4, we're going to read one verse, verse 13.
Hallelujah.
1 Timothy 4, and let's read verse 13, please.
Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine.
Now this is Yahshua saying, until I come again the second time, give attention to what? To reading.
That's right.
That's why we sang that song every Shabbat. Be reading, be reading, be reading when he comes. Talking about reading this book right here.
Right,
the
right.
Bible, the book of books. He said, until I come, you pay attention and you read. You're supposed to be reading. It says, give attention to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Well, Yahweh's doctrine is in this book. The
Yes,
book
it
of
is.
books. Let's go to Revelation, the 20th chapter. So Yahweh made the book, required reading
Okay.
for all humans.
Yeah.
It's required reading. It's not an option.
Huh.
And we don't want to think that it's an option because, again, you will end up in trouble.
That's it. It is written.
This book is required reading for mankind. Revelation, the 20th chapter. And let's read verse 12, please.
Hallelujah.
And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works.
So here Yahweh is talking about, I saw Hamuth, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of Kai. And Hamuth were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. Well, what are they being judged out of? They're being judged out of this book, the book of books, the Bible. What Yahweh put in here for man to find out is in here.
Right.
And to understand about it, not only understand about it, but to start doing it.
Living it.
What's the reason? Because the handwriting's on the wall for
Yes, it
man.
is.
Man has been judged guilty.
All from birth.
Let's go to Romans, the 3rd chapter. So you say, what is man guilty of? All right, we're going to Romans, the 3rd chapter to see what this handwriting on the wall is about. Romans, the 3rd chapter. We're going to read one verse. Romans 3 and verse 23.
Hallelujah.
For all have sinned
Okay.
and comes short of the glory of Elohim.
Now, man
Thus
has been
says Yahweh.
weighed in the balance. He's been found wanting. He lacks glory. And he's headed for the lake of fire unless he makes a change. Every human being that's born into the earth has been judged the same way.
Yep.
Handwriting's on the wall for him.
Yep.
It says, for all and come short of the kabod of Elohim. So Yahweh's glory in man is a requirement.
Okay.
Yahweh requires glory in man.
Hallelujah.
Man had Yahweh's glory
Yes, we did.
before he sinned, him and the first woman. The glory of Yahweh was on him. The glory of Yahweh was in him.
Yeah.
He lost it.
Yep.
Man comes to the earth without that glory, and it is incumbent upon him to get into the book of books and find out that he's been weighed in the balance, he's been judged lacking, and find out how to get that glory back.
That's right.
Otherwise, he's headed for the lake of fire.
That's on. That's it.
All right, let's go to Daniel, the 5th chapter. So this is where Yahweh invented the handwriting on the wall. This is from Yahweh, Daniel, the 5th chapter. And it's recorded in the book of books. So if you don't read the book of books, which is the Bible, then you won't know about this. But Yahweh said there will be nobody in the lake of fire that's blindsided. There will be nobody in the lake of fire that's ignorant. There will be nobody in the lake of fire that won't know about Yahweh, that won't know about Yahshua, that won't know that they could have escaped by accepting Yahshua as their Savior. There won't be anybody in the lake of fire that doesn't know how they could have obtained salvation. All right, Daniel, the 5th chapter. And now we had looked at this last week, so we just want to look again at this man that Yahweh wrote the handwriting on the wall for him. Not only was he judged guilty because he was a human, separated from Yahweh, born spiritually dead, but now what he did was he disrespected Yahweh by using the sacred vehicles that his grandfather got out of the temple in Jerusalem. And he was showing off with some of his servants and drinking out of these vessels. All right, so let's just read that part, and then we're going to go to chapter 4 and finish reading the account of what happened to his grandfather when Yahweh judged him guilty and he disrespected Yahweh. All right, Daniel 5, we're going to start at verse 3, please.
Hallelujah.
Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of Elohim, which was at Jerusalem. And the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them.
So here it is talking about when King Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem, and he took the people of the land to Babylon, into slavery. Here's his grandson, and he's saying, go get me those vessels that my grandfather took from Jerusalem. He said, then they brought the golden vessels. Now these are vessels that belonged in the temple. That were taken out of the temple of the house of Elohim, which was at Jerusalem. Our forefathers, this was sacred stuff to Yahweh that the priesthood used to serve Yahweh and to do the rituals and ceremonies of the temple. So these were sacred. It said, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in these vessels. They treated them as something common. All right, verse 4.
They drank wine and praised the Elohims of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
Then they started praising these pagan Elohims that they served.
Total disrespect.
Drinking out of the glasses that Yahweh used for his service. All right, said they drank Yain and Halal, the Elohims of gold and silver and brass, of iron and wood and stone, which were no Elohims. All right, verse 5.
In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote.
So while they were doing this, it says on the wall there just appeared a hand. And it started writing on the wall. So Yahweh sent a malach, and only his hand appeared on the wall, and he was writing something on the wall, which Yahweh's going to have us get to the point of what it was on the wall that he was writing. But it said the same hour when he was praising these pagan deities, came forth fingers of a man's hand. That's all they saw, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Well, we read, you can read up further down how the king's knees started knocking. And he was just shaken to the core. And he knew he had messed up.
Big time.
All right, then he tried to find somebody that could read the writing. So his wife came to him and said, he called the fake magicians and the Chaldeans and the other people first. They couldn't read it. Then she told him, you know what, there's a black Hebrew of the slaves.
Praise to mighty Yah.
And his name is Daniel. They renamed him, his slave name Belteshazzar. She said, he interpreted some dreams, and he told your grandfather some things about what was going on that he didn't understand. Call him and he'll be able to tell you. As a matter of fact, they said that Daniel was the head of the Chaldeans and the soothsayers and everything. They didn't call him, they called the underlings. But they had to call him because he was the one that was hooked up to Yahweh. So when this king, Belshazzar, called him, he asked him, are you from these black Hebrews? Are you from Jerusalem? And you know, you came, and are you the one that my grandfather asked about this stuff? He wanted to be sure this was the one. Okay, and then Daniel said, yes, I'm the one. And he said, the king told him, well, look, I'll give you a robe, I'll give you a ring, and I'll give you a gold chain about your neck. He said, you don't need to give me that. I'm going to tell you what the handwriting on the wall is. So now he started telling him, and he let him know, I interpreted some things for your grandfather, and your grandfather got puffed up, and he disrespected this same Elohim that you're disrespecting, and this is what happened to him. So we're going over to the 4th chapter to find out what happened to his grandfather. Then we're going to go back and see the end of what happened to him. And it's not a story, these are the facts of what happened to him. Okay? Daniel 4, and we want to start at verse 10 where we left off in the first show. So this is King Nebuchadnezzar, and this is this man, the king Belteshazzar. This is his grandfather, and Daniel is recounting what happened to him, and we're reading what happened to him. All right, Daniel 4, let's start at verse 10.
Hallelujah.
Thus were the visions of my head in my bed. I saw and behold a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great.
So now here is King Nebuchadnezzar saying, I saw a vision.
Right,
And he
right.
said, I was laying on my bed and I saw a tree in the midst of the earth, and it was a big, tall tree. All right, verse 11.
The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto Shemayim, and the sight of thereof to the end of all the earth.
So this tree spread over all the earth. Okay, verse 12.
The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it.
Verse 13.
I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and an holy one came down from Shemayim.
Now you see how Yahweh is involved with this?
Right, right.
He's on his bed and he's seeing this vision
Right,
about
right.
this big tree, and it was spread all over the earth. And it says there was a lot of people that were, being fed from it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof. He said in 13, I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a Kadesh Akkad came down from Shemayim. So now we see Yahweh is involved.
Right, right.
But see, he didn't understand what it was. He's just looking at a tree with leaves that spread all over the place. So he needed somebody to break it down and tell him what it was. Only somebody that was connected to Yahweh could tell him what it was.
That's the only way.
Okay, verse 14.
He cried out loud, and thus hewed down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruits. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches.
All right, verse.
Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let this portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth.
Now you notice in verse 14 and 15, all of a sudden it stops talking about a tree.
Yeah.
It's talking about his and him. It says, this watcher that came down from Shemayim cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches. Shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in Ha'eret, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of Shemayim, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of Ha'eret. So he's talking about this tree that was up real high, bringing it down to be real low.
That's right.
It's talking about him being with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Up, down, low. Okay, verse 16.
Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him.
So whatever is going to happen to this tree that turned into a person, it says, let his pay be changed from an Adam. See, it's talking about a man. And let a beast pay be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. So that times is a year. Let 7 years pass over him. Let him be in that state for 7 years. All right, verse 17.
This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the Holy One, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men.
So you notice now in this verse, in the verse earlier it said one watcher. But you see it says this matter is said by decree of the watchers. So Yahweh has a bunch of watchers that are watching us men and women here on the earth. And the demand by Hadabar of HaKadash Echad. There's some holy ones. To the intent that Haikaya, the living, that's us, may Yada that El Elyon ruleth in Hamalkuth of Adam. So Yahweh's ruling down here. That's what the book of books is about. That's why we're supposed to get in here and find out. Because man, in his narrow, one-dimensional mind, thinks he's ruling down here.
Yeah.
The only way he finds out is he gets in this book.
Okay.
That's why it's required reading. Because Yahweh is a Siddiq judge. He's a righteous judge. He's not going to sentence anybody to the lake of fire, to separation from him, without having given them adequate and ample chance to know
Right.
what it is he put here, which is a way of escape. All right? So it says that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of man,
Right.
and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of Adam or men, whoever he's pleased to set up.
Right.
So whatever position we're in, we should always understand it's Yahweh that set people in those positions.
Hallelujah.
Allow them to be put in the position. And just like he's put them in the position, he can take them out of the
Of
position.
course. It is written.
All right, he's in control. All right,
All
verse
the time.
18.
This dream I, Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the Ruach of the Holy Elohims is in thee.
So now just like with his grandson, he had called the fake wise men first,
Right,
and they
right.
couldn't tell him what this dream, this tall tree getting cut down and being in the grass like a beast was about. But he said the Ruach of the Holy
Holy One.
Mighty One is in you.
Right.
So I believe you can tell me. All right, verse 19.
Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, my master, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thy enemies.
So here's Daniel. He said his slave name was Belteshazzar. Says he was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. And then the king said, don't be troubled to tell me what the interpretation of the dream is. Hamelech, Amar, and Amar. Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar, Amar, and Amar. My Adon, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. So Yahweh let him know what this was about. He was going to be cut down, and we're going to see, because of his pride,
Right.
because he had disrespected
That's
Yahweh,
it.
because Yahweh told him.
Right. Tell it like it
He
is.
tells all of us, don't walk in pride. Because he said, if you
Yes.
walk in pride, then he knows how to bring you down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, verse 20.
The tree that thou sawest which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heavens, and the sight thereof to all the earth,
21.
whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation.
And 22.
It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth.
So he's saying the tree that
Yeah.
you saw, that tall tree, is you.
Right.
He said, it is thou, O Melech, that art grown and become strong. For thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto Shemayim, and thy dominion to the end of Ha'eret. And actually, when you read the book of books, you find out that it was Yahweh that sent King Nebuchadnezzar
Right.
to take over
That's
our
right.
forefathers, to
Punishment
get
out,
them
yeah.
out of the land, and
Disobedience.
to bring them to Babylon in captivity.
Right.
So Yahweh was using this
As
Gentile
he said, he
king.
says who he wanted.
There you go. And so Yahweh was
Bring 'em
blessing him because he was doing what Yahweh said. Okay? He said, you grown strong, your kingdom's expanding, and it says your dominion, your control to the end of the earth, and it's reached unto Shemayim. Why? Because Yahweh was allowing it.
Right.
All right, verse 23.
And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, hew the tree down and destroy it, Yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let this portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him.
All right, and 24.
This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my master the king.
Now you see he's asking Daniel about the interpretation. And you see how Daniel is calling things that be not? It said, this is the interpretation, O Melech, and this is the decree of El Elyon, which is come upon my Adon HaMelech. So Daniel knew by Ruach HaKodesh that Nebuchadnezzar was going to do this.
Right.
Yahweh showed Nebuchadnezzar the vision.
Right.
He could have chose not to, but Yahweh knows what we're going to do before we do it.
Yes, he
So
does.
you notice how, even though Daniel is telling them what the vision is, it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So Yahweh is good. He gives us that preview to where we can stop it by making another choice.
Right.
But he knew Nebuchadnezzar was going to make the choice, and then the Ruach revealed it to Daniel. He said, this is the interpretation, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon you. It hasn't happened yet, but it's coming. All right, verse 25.
That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will.
Oh, Daniel's breaking it down. It grew out through Daniel. He said, this is you, king. They're going to drive you from Adam, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make you to eat grass as oxen. They shall wet thee with the dew of Shemayim, and 7 times, 7 years, you're going to be like that, shall pass over you, till you know, till you, Yada, that Ha-El Elyon ruleth in Haman the Badam, and give it to whomsoever he will.
Right.
And we're going to see what Nebuchadnezzar did to bring this on him. All right, verse 26.
And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the Shemaims do rule.
So you see, it's in our court. It's in man's court to get into the book.
Right.
It's Yahweh's done all he can. Now it's on us.
Yes, it is.
What are we going to do after that? He said, whereas they SABBATH to leave the stump of the tree roots, Yahweh's showing his hasid, his mercy. He's going to let him have the kingdom back after 7 years. Because we're going to see, he's going to realize all this came on him because he's thinking he's all that.
Right.
And he was taking glory away from Yahweh.
Yeah, right.
Even though Yahweh requires glory in men, you don't take it from Yahweh.
Right.
He gives it to you. And he tells you exactly how he gives it to you. He gives it to you through the baptism process. Through Yahshua, through recognizing his son Yahshua.
Hallelujah.
It says, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. You're going to have it back. After that, you shall have known that the heavens do rule. That Yahweh is ruling.
Over this Earth.
All right, verse 27.
Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sin by righteousness, and thy iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility.
He says your peace doesn't have to be busted.
Right.
He's saying, wherefore, Melech, let my Eitzah or my Ya'etz be acceptable unto you, and break off
Stop it.
by Sadakah. See, it's either or. You're either righteous or you're Ra.
That's it.
And he's saying, break off your iniquities by showing hasid to the poor. And it may be a lengthening of your tranquility. You may be able to push this off and it not come on you. It depends on him. It depends on you and me.
That's right, Ron. Tell like it is.
But we're going to see verse 28. Let's read it.
All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar.
All of this came upon him. Daniel warned him, Yahweh warned him, he saw the vision, but it says all of this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. So what was it that came upon him? Verse 21?
21?
I'm sorry, 29.
At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon.
And 30?
The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?
31.
While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from Shemaim saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee.
Boom! There it is.
Right.
It took a year, right?
Yeah.
It said at the end of 12 months.
Right.
He walked in the palace of the Malkuth of Babylon. And Hamelech, Amar, and Amar, is not this great Babylon that I have built for Habayat of Hamalkuth by the might of my Mashir, and for Hakabod of my majesty. Sounded like Hasatan.
Yeah.
While Hadabar was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from Shemaim saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is Amar or spoken, Hamalkuth is departed from thee. And just like that, boom, that beast heart came. He opened the door, and the devil obliged, came right in. All right, verse 32.
And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will.
So here is Yahweh letting the Malach tell him and explain exactly what's going to happen, which Daniel told him 12 months before. All right, so he's breaking it down again so it'll be fresh in his mind until he loses his mind for 7 years. All right, verse 33.
The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of Shemaim, till his hair were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws.
So he was out there looking wild. He was just a wild man. And you know, Gentiles, they can become real hairy. So, and then it says, what is that? His nails look like bird claws. All right, he was just out there, just a crazy man. Just lost his mind for 7 years. And his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers. Okay, what do they call that thing that they're always looking for in the swamp? That big, I forget what they call that big thing.
The Loch Ness.
The Loch Ness monster?
No.
Like Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, right.
Sasquatch.
Right. So here, he was Sasquatch. All right, verse 34.
And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes unto Shemaim, and my understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High. And I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation.
So he got it then. Came out of it. At the end of, he talking about 7 years. I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to Shemaim, and my being returned unto me, and I baraked El Elyon. That's why we're in the book of books.
All right.
And our understanding has returned to us. That's why we barak El Elyon.
Hallelujah.
He said, and I halal and kabod him that kaya forever.
Yes.
That's how we found out in the book of books. He lives forever.
Hallelujah.
Whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his malkuth is from generation to generation.
It is.
So whatever kingdom or dominion I have, I'm thanking Yahweh for it. That's what you should do the same thing. Just like Nebuchadnezzar. And he got himself cleaned up, but he was out there. And nothing he could do about it. But he says at the end of the days, the end of them 7 years, first thing he was doing was praising Yahweh. Hallelujah.
Praise the
And those
mighty
of us,
Yah.
when we got into this word and found out who Yahweh was
Right,
and what was
right.
going on, the first thing we did was raise our hands and praise
All
Yahweh.
right. Holy Yahweh.
That's what we will be doing for the rest of our lives and
Bringing us out of that
eternity.
darkness to marvelous order.
That's right. Hallelujah. We were in a deep, dark pit.
Yeah.
Verse 35.
And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing.
That's right.
And he doeth according to his will in the army of Shemaim, and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand, or say unto him, What doest thou?
Huh.
There you go. So he's got it now. So Yahweh put this in here, this history, so we could get it.
Right, right.
So we don't have to go through what he went through.
Right, right.
All the inhabitants of our earth are reputed as nothing.
That's it. We nothing.
And he doeth according to his will
Okay.
in the army of Shemaim,
Huh.
among the inhabitants of Ha'aret, and none can stay his hand or amar unto him. Yahweh, what are you doing?
I know, right?
None. But a
No.
fool who would ask Yahweh, Yahweh, what are you doing? All right, verse 36.
At the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom my honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my masters sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me.
So he's saying at the same time, when I'm praising Yahweh, it says same time, my reason, my mind came back to me. And for Hakavod of my Malkud, my honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my masters sought unto me. And I was Eitzah Mats in my Malkuth, and excellent majesty was added unto me. After he got back to his right mind and praised
Right.
Yahweh. But you see how merciful Yahweh was? He explained it to him before he
Right, right.
went into it.
Right.
He warned him a year earlier.
Yep.
And then when he came out, kind of like when Yachanan's father, the Malach, came to him and told him what Yachanan's name was going to be.
Right, right.
And then he told him, nobody in my family named that. And then the Malach said, yeah, and you won't say anything
Right,
until
right.
after the child is born.
Right.
And when the child was born, they was asking him, okay, what's his name? What's his name? 'Cause he couldn't say anything. And as soon as Yahweh opened his mouth after Yachanan was born, the first thing he said was Yachanan. Yahweh knows how to do it.
Right, right.
He knows how to get us in
Hallelujah.
line. Praise him. Hallelujah.
Praise
All
the
right.
mighty Yah.
Verse 37.
Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the king of Shemaim, all whose works are truth and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to
He's able to bring them down.
Yeah.
He said, now I, Nebuchadnezzar. Now I, Shelomah. Now I. Put yourself in there.
Yeah.
Allow and extol and honor Hamalkuth of Shemaim, all whose works are imminent, and his ways, Shaphat, and those that walk in pride, he is able to abase.
Huh.
Why? Because pride is not the way to go.
No, it's not.
Pride will get you where you don't want to be.
Right, right.
That's where Hasatan and the 1/3 demons are going to be. All right, now let's go back to Daniel, the 5th chapter. So King Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, Belshazzar, did not choose to learn his lesson from what his grandfather went
No,
through.
it did.
And you know he told him.
You know that.
You know he told him. Well, he had to know. The man was out there for 7 years like a beast.
Yeah.
So now his name in Aramaic is Belshazzar. That's Belshatsar. It's found at Strong's number 1113, and it corresponds to a foreign origin found at Strong's Hebrew number 1112. And that's Belshazzar, or Belshazzar-limah. It means Bel, protect the king. Now Bel is a pagan deity.
Right.
So you see how they tried to throw it on Daniel too, right?
Uh-huh.
So, but he didn't name himself Belteshazzar.
Right, right,
That
right.
was a slave name.
Right.
And I'm sure he was still calling himself Daniel.
You know that's right.
But this Belshazzar, I have the Babylonian god that it's talking about. His name means Bel, protect the king. And that the name of that Babylonian deity Bel is Marduk. Marduk, M-A-R-D-U-K. And this is from the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica. And it says, Marduk, in Mesopotamian religion, the chief god of the city of Babylon. Well, we read about Babylon,
Right, right.
Neo-Babylon, that is Gentile Babylon,
Right,
because
right.
there was a Hamite or Black Babylon
That right. Y'all right. Tell it
before
like it is.
this
so
new
damn you know.
Babylon. All right, he was the chief god of the city of Babylon and the national god of Babylonia. As such, he was eventually called simply Bel, B-E-L, or L-O-R-D, Lord. Originally, he seems to have been a god of thunderstorms. A poem known as Enuma Elish and dating from the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, that's 1119 to 1098 BC, relates Marduk's rise to such preeminence that he was the god of 50 names, each one that of a deity or of a divine attribute. After conquering the monster of primeval chaos, Tiamat, he became Lord of the gods of heaven and earth. All nature, including humanity, owes its existence to him. The destiny of kingdoms and subjects was in his hands. Marduk's chief temples at Babylon were the Esagila and the Etemenaki, a ziggurat. Again, that's a Tower of Babel. That's one of those pyramids.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, with a shrine of Marduk on the top. In the Esagila, the poem Enuma Elish was recited every year at the New Year festival. The goddess named most often as the consort or the wife or the girlfriend of Marduk was Zarpanidu. Marduk's star was Jupiter. And his sacred animals were horses, dogs, and especially the so-called dragon with a forked tongue, which were representations which adorn the city walls of Babylon. Marduk was later known as Bel, a name derived from the Shemitic word Baal, B-A-A-L, or L-O-R-D, Lord. Bel had all the attributes of Marduk, and his status and cult were much the same. Bel, however, gradually came to be thought of as the god of order and destiny. In Greek writings, references to Bel indicate this Babylonian deity and not the Syrian god of Palmyra of the same name. So we see that this Belshazzar had that pride, thinking, okay, Bel protect the king. He took Yahweh's golden vessels from the temple and drinking and talking about praising Baal. Baal. All right, and we see what happened to him. So let's go back to Daniel, the 5th chapter. We want to start at verse 22.
Hallelujah.
Now this is Daniel, and he's telling him about what happened to his grandfather. Now we're going back to pick up. Now Yahweh has Daniel reading this king Belshazzar's mail. All right, reading the handwriting on the wall to let him know how he messed up.
Right.
All right. Daniel 5, let's start at verse 22.
Hallelujah.
And thou, this his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thy heart, though thou knewest all this.
Yeah, see? He's letting him know. You knew all this.
Right.
See, we can learn the easy way or we can learn the hard way.
Hard knocks.
If somebody's going through something and they can give us the benefit of their experience, then we can move along much faster.
Yes.
We don't have to do everything by trial and error.
No, we do not.
We don't have to experience everything. I remember years ago there was a man I went to high school with, and he came back his first year from college and had taken some mescaline. And his friends had told him, you know what, don't do that, don't try that. And it took him, I haven't seen him recently, but whatever it was, his body or whatever, he took that mescaline and it almost made him crazy. It almost blew his mind. And so then he was taking whatever it is that you take to try to get off drugs or whatever. But yes, something with the M, right, methadone. And I met him, maybe about 6 or 7 years after. But it was his freshman year, and he was still kind of messed up from having taken that. If he had just listened to what his friends were telling him. All right? It says, and thou, his bond, well, we're looking where the word father, it can mean, grandfather, any male relative, okay? O Belshazzar, you have not humbled your mind, though you, Yada, you knew all this.
Okay.
You still went ahead.
Right.
All right? Yahweh said that the foolish pass on and are punished. All right, verse 23. You knew this, but you didn't listen.
Right.
You didn't learn from it. Okay, verse 23.
Okay. But hast lifted up thyself against Yahweh of Shemaiah, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy masters and thy wives and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the Elohims of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, hear not, or know, and the Elohim in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified.
All right, so he said, this is what you did wrong, just like he was telling his grandfather. You have lifted up yourself against the Adon of Shemaiah.
Okay.
And you told him to bring the vessels of his body, his temple,
Right.
before you, and your masters, your Iyshshah, your concubines have drunk yain in them. You desecrated them.
Right.
And you have halal these pagan deities, the mighty ones of silver, of gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor Shemar, nor Yada. They're fake.
Huh.
And the Elohim in whose hand your breath is.
Right.
Neshama.
Right.
He's got your life in his hand. Again, the book of books wants us to know Yahweh's got our breath
Yes, he does.
in his hand. And who are all thy ways, you have not kabod.
Okay.
You disrespected him.
Totally.
Okay? And he's going to tell him what the handwriting on the wall is. He saw that handwriting when he was in the middle of disrespecting. Verse 24.
Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written.
He said, all right, King Belshazzar, the hand was sent from the one who got your breath.
Right.
The one that you have not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him.
Right.
And he's the one that told him to write this writing. Now he's going to let him know what it is. Go ahead, 25.
And this is the writing that was written. Mene, tekel, ufarsin.
All right. It says, and this is the writing that was written on the wall by the hand. Mene, tiko, ufarsin. All right. Now he's going to say what it means. Verse 26.
This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, Elohim had numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel,
Go ahead, 27.
Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Perez, the kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
All right. So he said, this is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, Elohim have numbered thy Malkuth and finished it. He said it's over.
Yep.
Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and found wanting. Just like man.
That's right.
Come short of the glory.
One in the need.
Perez, thy Malkuth is divided and the Medes and Persians. So this English word, mene, is from the Aramaic word M-E-N-E, found at Strong's number 4484. It means number, a weight or measurement. usually 50 or 60 shekels. The English word tekel is an Aramaic word Tequal, that's tekel, found at Strong's number 8625, meaning to balance, to be weighed, a unit of weight, a shekel. The English word upharsin is the Aramaic word perak, that's P-E-R-A-C, found at Strong's number 6537. It means to split up, to divide. The scales of justice in the Western legal system come from this phrase. The kingdom of Babylon was weighed in the balance and found wanting. Therefore, Yahweh's judgment was for it to be divided between the Medes and the Persians. And so King Cyrus of the Persians came and took over Babylon that night.
Right.
All right, let's read verse 29. Daniel 5 and verse 29.
Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom.
All right, so he said, if you tell me this, then I will reward you and I'll give you this. It says, then Sabbath Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in Hamalkuth. All right, verse 30.
In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
Yes, he was. He was killed that very night. All right. In that Layil was Belshazzar, Hamalkuth, Melech of the Chaldeans, killed. Verse 31.
And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
It says, and Darius or Darius of the Mede took Hamalkuth, and he was about 62 years old. So now I have an article here, and it's entitled Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. It says, the judgment that was pronounced upon Babylon was carried out the same night with Belshazzar being slain. Remember, Daniel explained the handwriting on the wall? And then we just read in the scripture in Daniel 5 and verse 30, and that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. It says, Darius the Median took the kingdom. Darius the Mede took the throne of the kingdom at the age of 62.
Right.
Darius came to his nephew, Cyrus the Persian, and asked for his allegiance in laying siege to Babylon. He accepted and thus went out to take over the city. Seeing the immense size of Babylon, he knew there was no way to bring the walls down or scale them with any success. Learning of the feast that was to take place, Cyrus decided to divert the river Euphrates and march his army in when the water level was low enough. And in the Bible it talks about Cyrus going into the 2 lead gates. So we're going to read that in just a minute. With this accomplished, his army marched in, and if it were not for 2 gates that had been left ajar, they would have had to march out the other side, as there were walls and gates down both sides of the river. On gaining access to the inside of the city, they quickly subdued it and put the king to death, thus ending the short reign of Babylon over the then known world. So we see how this is the history that they've written in history books.
Right.
Well, the Bible is a history book, so we're reading the same
Praise
thing in here.
the history
Okay,
book.
right. It says, Cyrus gave the rulership to his uncle Darius out of respect for his seniority, but Darius only ruled for 2 years and died at the age of 64. The way in which the city was to be taken and the person that was to take it had been prophesied by Isaiah approximately 150 years before.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Isaiah or Yahshua 45. See how Yahweh does it?
Yep.
He wants you to know. He rules in the kingdom of Israel. Isaiah 45. So it was prophesied or written about 150 years before it happened.
Praise be to the mighty Yah.
Hallelujah. That's the kind of Elohim I want to serve and am serving. Isaiah 45. Let's start at verse, we're just going to read one verse. Verse 1, please.
Hallelujah.
Thus saith Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut.
So who let Cyrus in?
Yah. Yah.
He did. Thus amar Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus. So you see how he used King Nebuchadnezzar to go get our people out of the land for disobedience. Now he's using this man to go and take over Babylon from this King Belshazzar at the right time, appropriate time, perfect time, when he disrespected and was using Yahweh's vessels and everything, and died that same day, that same night. It says, thus amar Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose main hand I have holden, to subdue go we before him. And I will loose the loins of Melech, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. All right, now let me read this other thing, and then we'll read the other verse in Isaiah. It says, Belshazzar the king, Nebuchadnezzar had died in 562 BC, leaving his son Evil-Merodach, also called Amel-Marduk, to take over the kingdom, 562 to 560 BC. He was succeeded by Neriglissar, 560 to 556 BC, who was succeeded by his son Labarosakad, who ruled for 9 months. Nabonidus ruled next, 556 to 539 BC, but the last 3 years, 541 to 539 BC, co-jointly with his son Belshazzar. All right, that's the one that made the mistake using Yahweh's vessels. This fulfilled the prophecy of Jeremiah 27, verses 6 to 8. And you can write that down, we're not going to go there. Where Babylon will rule until his son and his son's son, as Nabonidus was Nebuchadnezzar's son, and Belshazzar, therefore, his grandson. Ruach said that he was his grandson. He made a feast in 560 BC. When Neriglissar ruling, war had broken out between the Babylonians and the Medes. Darius, the king of the Medes, summoned his nephew Cyrus, the king of the Persians, to aid him in the war. At the time of Belshazzar, Babylon the city was the only city in the east not under subjection to the Medes and Persians.
Generals, captains, lieutenants, and the way it was set up in the courtyards and the tents and everything, and the Levites were carrying out their business, the people that carried the Ark of the Covenant, they was really powerful men who were securing that.
It's a message from my heavenly
Very
Father,
powerful
letting us know
men, because
who
they
we
couldn't
are.
let no one near,
Born
because first
in
of all,
the
you would
cities,
die.
gave the crown of
If you
dominion
touch
and
it,
authority. And
they
the
wanted
birds fly to
change.
the serpent.
Jesus didn't have, Buddha didn't have, Confucius didn't have, Allah
the ground was called to sacred, trying to eat us all over the ground.
So Yahweh can help me.
I can fast forward to monotone, recognize
He helped me change my whole thing around.